Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints wrapped up minicamp on Thursday. Dennis Allen met with reporters after, and there was one sort of newsy item, and that's that Chris Olave was out today. Dennis Allen explained why Olave missed practice.
Yeah, he wasn't feeling as good today. I think it was maybe a little Achilles inflammation or something, but nothing that we're worried about.
So that's good. Achilles inflammation, but nothing they're worried about. So onward and upward. No sense in running him out there and doing anything that could potentially hurt him. Allen also talked about the positions that had the most competition at this during this 3-day mini camp here as they're ramping up toward the full training camp.
I think there's a lot of competition in a lot of different areas. You know, kicker being one of them. I think there's some good competition in the defensive backfield. I think there's some good competition at the wide receiver position. So I was saying the other day, I feel like we've got some pretty good depth in terms of the start of training camp. So that's one of the things that has me excited.
If you have competition in the defensive backfield, you have a problem. He listed 3 positions: kicker, defensive back, wide receiver. If you have competition at defensive back, you got a problem, because your starters should be Lattimore, Adebo, and Alontae Taylor should be in the slot. And your safeties should be Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May. Like, that's it, right? Now, if you're talking about who's going to be the 7th, 8th, 9th defensive back, okay. But if you're talking about anyone other than those guys not having a job locked down, that's the problem. Now, we've talked plenty about how there was a legit battle at place kicker. And Will Lutz had a bad year last year. You're paying him a lot of money. He was thought to be a cap casualty. That does not surprise me at all. They have brought in that kid from Notre Dame to push him and to potentially steal his job or make him earn his job. So I'm totally fine with that. And wide receiver, that makes a ton of sense. You have brought in so many numbers at receiver. We keep talking about what feels like the big 3: Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed. Odd to say that about Shaheed since he doesn't really have the skins on the wall, but we all just assume those 3. Of course, for whatever reason, unbeknownst to me, they still seem to think Tre'Quan Smith provides some value whatsoever, but that's 4 right there. Before you even count Brian Edwards and James Washington, who they brought in, you're at 6. That's before you even start talking about any of the other guys like Kirk Merritt and the guys who've been hanging around, Kawan Baker. Remember, you really only keep 5 receivers. I mean, somebody, maybe one of the free agents you signed this offseason ain't making this team. So, yeah, there's going to be competition at receiver. That I believe. The defensive back one is the one that made me open my eyes and go, what in the world could be going on there? But worth following. The other thing of interest is, as they wrapped up this minicamp, Dennis Allen was asked if this team is better now, today, than they were at this point last year. And context matters so much, because remember last year, there were a lot of people picking the Saints to be a surprise Super Bowl. Wasn't it Bart Scott who picked the Saints to go to the Super Bowl? I think maybe Mike Tannenbaum did as well. Like, it was the Saints were a trendy sleeper pick because you had Jameis coming off the injury, and they were 5-2 in 2021 when Jameis went down. So the thought was, man, Jameis coming off the injury, you brought in Andy Dalton as a backup. We all thought, man, as a backup, Andy Dalton's great. No one was anticipated being the starting quarterback for the bulk of the season, but Taysom Hill was healthy and back in his slash role. I mean, you brought in Tyrann Mathieu, you brought in Jarvis Landry, you get Michael Thomas healthy. We were fired up about this team a year ago at this point. So with that context, Dennis Allen was asking you better now than you were last year.
I don't want to get into comparisons in terms of where we were last year. It really is not going to have any bearing on what we are this year. I do feel like that, like I said earlier, I feel like, I feel good about where we're at and the direction that we're headed. And but yet we still got a ton of stuff that we got to work on and improve on.
The odd thing, yes, that's true. The odd thing about New Orleans is, remember, a year ago, of course, you went 7-10. Now, your projected win total was higher than that number, but you had injuries and a lot of things didn't go your way. You lost close games. We all know how it went. So you went 7-10. Before the season, we were thinking Jameis Winston was going to be the quarterback and Michael Thomas was going to be healthy. There were a lot of things we assumed before last season that didn't pan out because of what happens generally over the course of an NFL season. Injuries happen. Some guys play better than you expect. Some guys don't play as well as you expect. Dennis Allen back as head coach. How was that going to go? Pete Carmichael calling plays without Sean Payton. Like, we got a lot of those answers, and they weren't good. And so now you look at a team where the projected win total is 9.5. So forget what we thought at the beginning of last year. Just consider what we knew about last year's team at the end when you were 7-10. The fact that the projection, the win total projection right now is 8.5 or 9.5, where do the Saints land? 8-9, 9-8 is essentially where they're being projected. Well, Adam Rank at the NFL Network did a projection for every NFL team, and he's got the Saints going 9-8. So below, or I guess above their projected win total of 8.5, putting them at 9-8, and 9-8 should be this year, I would assume, good enough to win this division. 8-9 was good enough to win it a year ago. So unless if someone pops off that we're not anticipating, but the other thing I'll continue to say is, even if you're 9-8 and you win this division, is that really good enough to beat any team in the playoffs? And the answer is probably no, which is why for this Saints team to actually be better, it's not just going to take being a 9-win team and making the playoffs. It's how much can you improve to where you feel like you can make a legitimate deep run in the playoffs. And that circles back to what Dennis Allen said at the end, where got a lot they have to improve on. And he's right with this team. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.